President Tinubu appoints CEOs for parastatals and agencies. Chicago certificate saga worsens Nigeria's reputation. Peter Obi reveals, urges Tinubu to speak up and save Nigeria and himself the embarrassment. All marketers counter federal government to insist fuel subsidy is back. The headlines within the country, now headlines outside Nigeria. Niger's military rulers expel UN officials, order them out of the country within 72 hours. And Zimbabwe opposition MPs suspended from the country's parliament and its sessions for 6 months over protests. You're welcome. Kofi Bartels, Politics HQ starts now. Nigeria's federal High Court in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has disqualified a governorship candidate of the All Progressives country, Nigeria's ruling party, Timipre Sylva, ahead of the governorship election in Bayelsa State, where the APC is the opposition party. The Apex Court ruled on Tuesday to stop Timipre Sylva from contesting the November 11 governorship election just around the corner. Now, it's a successive disappointment for the All Progressives Congress in Bayelsa State, as they were shelled 4 years ago, despite the party's candidate emerging victorious. Remember him, Lion. Well, Timipre Sylva ruled Bayelsa for 4 years as governor between 2007 and 2011 and was found to have sworn an oath twice. Hence, the decision of the court in this regard, stopping him from contesting the forthcoming election. The All Progressives Congress is expected to go to court. However, it faces a race against time with the election very close by. We are glad to have joining us to discuss this Stanley Damabide. Stanley Damabide is Director Legal Clearance of the Bayelsa APC Governorship Campaign Council. Stanley, thank you very much for joining us. What's the official response of the All Progressives Congress? You are a member of the legal team, so I'm sure you can relay that response to us. What's the response to the recent disqualification of your candidate and former governor, Timipre Sylva, from the Bayelsa governorship election?
Firstly, I want to thank you for having me this evening. And let me say that this judgment has thrown up two situations that must be handled carefully and critically. The first is legal, and the second is political. Legally, we don't have much worries because we know that there's so much lack of logic surrounding this judgment, so much unnaturalness, legally speaking, surrounding it. But then it's a pronouncement of a court of competent jurisdiction, and the only way you can deal with it is to commence an appeal process, looking at the entire thing. We have solid grounds. Our team of lawyers are working on the appeal. And we have the list of doubts as to the fact that the table will turn when this matter gets to the appellate court. Because there are three barricades that ordinarily should have rested this matter and not make it get to the level that it got to. The first one is, despite arguments and different colorations that is being given, this is clearly a pre-election matter, because it is challenging the competence of our candidates to run for the election concerned. And the law is clear as to who can institute such matters. The claimant or plaintiff, as the case may be, in this case, was not a participant in the primary that produced Chief Timipre Sylva as the candidate, the governorship candidate of the APC for the forthcoming elections. So where did he derive the local standard to institute this action in the first place? That's quite troubling. Sadly and unfortunately, that question was not properly addressed and answered by the Federal High Court. The second challenge is with regards to the fact that, look, INEC published the names of the candidates of various parties in May 12th. That's in the public domain. And this claimant or plaintiff chose not to go to court until the 13th day of June 2023. That's much more than the 14 days provided by the Constitution for such actions to be commenced. So again, this case is statute barred. It is caught up by the statute of limitations. But sadly, that wasn't also addressed. And then the most interesting of them all is the fact that you are talking about a man who contested, yes, 2 elections, but were there pronouncements on these elections? Clearly there were. One of them is that, hey, the first election was nullified, not because Chief Timipre Sylva was perceived to have done anything wrong, but the Court of Appeal, which was the last court of reckoning in terms of gubernatorial elections before now, has said, look, the process didn't meet certain expectations, and so we're nullifying the process. What happens with that kind of pronouncement is that all that had happened will be deemed null and void. The election will be a no issue with regards to countenancing numbers of elections or oaths taken thereafter. And so when you deduct that, by law, you have just one valid election that was won.
All right. Yes. Before we, because of time, I just want to draw you back to a point you made there, Stanley, that this is a pre-election matter. Indeed, the elections are still before us. So it's still a pre-election litigation, wouldn't you say?
That's correct.
This is not about the party's primary, it could be argued. This is about the constitutionality of the election or the adherence to Nigeria's constitution. We know that Chief Timipre Sylva, after Dr. Goodluck Jonathan was picked as running mate to Omar Musa Yar'Adua of blessed memory, that Timipre Sylva took the center stage and was elevated to occupy the position of PDP governorship candidate in Bayelsa State. And he was sworn in 2007 as governor of Bayelsa State. Also, he got sworn in again after that. So if he's been sworn in twice, the court's decision is based on the 1999 Constitution's provision regarding term limits for governors. What do you say to that? Let's look at the substantive issue here.
Well, firstly, I want to correct the impression that you just made that this is not a pre-election matter. When will you say the course of action in this matter arose? It was when Chief Timipre Sylva was declared to be the candidate of the APC in the forthcoming election. That was the basis upon which this plaintiff or claimant approached the court. And so it's an issue that is challenging the competence of a candidate, of a party to participate in the election. So no matter the coloration that is looked at, it is a pre-election matter. Now, if you're talking about constitutionality or thereabout, when did this issue arise? When did it arise? It stopped, it finished its tenure long ago, and that is just it. Well, if you're talking about constitutionality again, let me take you further to understand that, yes, there was an election in 2007. What happened? That election was pronounced by the highest court of reckoning as at that time to be a nullity in its entirety. In essence, you can't countenance it in counting valid elections that took place. Same goes with the oath of office that was taken at that particular time. Let's not play the sentiment. I think the problem we're having in all of this is misunderstanding de facto situations from de jure situations. The way the law sees things is different from certain, factual situations. Yes, by fact, there was an occupation of office for a given period, there was an election, but by law, that entire process is a nullity because it was so declared by a court of competent jurisdiction. So you can't countenance it. That's the.
But Stanley, was Chief Timipre Sylva sworn in twice? as governor of Bayelsa State? Did he take the oath of office as governor twice, just to be sure?
By fact, yes, but by law, no, because the first one was nullified. The factor-wise, yes, the jury-wise, no, and that's what we should appreciate.
All right. So you're saying that the Constitution holds, but that your candidate by law, or maybe in the eyes of the law, he was only governor of Bayelsa State once.
Exactly, because the first one was nullified, and it led to the emergence of an acting governor and all of that. I forgot to talk about the political side of this judgment.
Please go on. Please go on. Please go on.
Okay. Yes. Clearly, we've dealt with the legal aspect. The political aspect, given the expectations and hope that we have as to what will happen subsequently with regards to this judgment, is that we know it has the likelihood of sending wrong signals to party faithful with regards to the election. And what we are doing is educating party faithful and letting them know that, hey, this is a mere distraction. It is a strategy conceived and contrived by persons that do not really mean well for the settings that we have. And as such, you man it up and treat it the way it ought to be treated. It shouldn't distract the campaigns. Today, we continue with our campaigns. We're in a Kerema local government era. It's going to continue.
Okay, so do you believe that there's room for interpretation of this case as you approach the appeal court?
If there's a little thing more than belief, that is what I'm actually holding on to now, because the law is clear to every. I mean, you can't have a court interpret a situation, just as that did severally in this case, and you expect that an unjustified distraction from that kind of interpretation by the apex court of the land will be sustained as we progress with regards to the litigation involved in this matter.
Okay, very interesting. We'll be watching to see what happens. Justice Donatus Okorowo, referred to the Supreme Court's decision in the case of Marwa versus Nyako regarding the term limits. I'm sure you're familiar with Marwa versus Nyako. You can tell us about this. But how does the All Progressives Congress in Bayelsa State view this reference to Marwa versus Nyako, by the judge? And what do you think its implications are for Timipre Sylva's candidacy going forward?
Clearly, if you've looked at that judgment, it is not on all fours with the current circumstance or situation. The scenarios are not the same. They do not fully apply to the negative with regards to this case. I think it's a case where the broader view of the law was not put into consideration in arriving at the decision that we have at hand now. But then that's the beauty of democracy, so to say, and that's also why we'll continue to thank and appreciate the arrangement we have in subjecting pronouncements of courts of first instance to, appellate reviews by, courts of superior jurisdiction. And so let's just watch how things will pan out. But our confidence, and the fact that this will be overturned is very high, because the law and the principles of law governing all of this cannot be interpreted any differently in an ideal situation where the full facts are laid there. That's a conviction.
What's the All Progressives Congress? And those of you in the legal team, were you not aware that such an argument or a suit could have come up, so that you could have been preemptive about it to prevent you from losing out to the preponderance of time?
Well, we're not going to lose out ultimately with regards to time. But Matthew, when you are fighting an opponent that is also going to be resorting to mischief, you don't know what he's going to be throwing at you. The only thing you can do at best is to be ready, to counter-attack or do a counterbalancing. And in this case, immediately the case was filed. We responded appropriately, raised two primary objections, and also attacked the core issue. Sadly, they weren't given full appreciation, and that's why we're where we are. We've never been tardy with regards to responding appropriately, but then it's a three-way thing. There's this other party, there's our party, and of course there's the court to make its pronouncement. The rest is left for how we pursue this appeal and what the appellate courts are going to say. We're not going to preempt them, but given the clear provisions of the law, we do not expect this to be sustained going forward.
What specific grounds or legal arguments will the APC's legal team present in the appeal against this court decision? What are you going to say to the court?
Are you asking with reference to what we're going to be doing on appeal?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, clearly, the grounds are rock solid. The first one is, does this respondent now or claimant, plaintiff, does he have the local standard to, in the first place, bring this action? That is one point. The second point is, if there's an agreement that this is a pre-election matter because it is challenging the competence of a candidate produced by a validly held party primary to be its flag bearer for an election, was it filed within the constitutionally stipulated time of 14 days as against about 1 month that this matter was filed? There was a slight attempt to be ingenious, so to say, with regards to giving it a different coloration. That look, this is a taxpayer who is exercising his constitutional right to know who should govern him and all of that. Well, that would make it somewhat unripe an issue to be brought before the court. Remember, this man has not been declared as governor. He's only won a party primary and has emerged as candidate. So why don't we just wait for the appropriate time to do all of this? There are a few other grounds that have been worked on, but the picture is bright for the party, and we have no fears about, by the grace of God, what is going to come out on the appeal.
You talked about the politics for a bit. Your party has that election, governorship election campaign flag off coming up just around the corner. Yeah. Yes. So how does the APC intend to maintain the focus of the party, the candidate and its faithfuls on the campaign amid this myriad of distractions from the legal challenge, distractions in your opinion, but not probably to the opposing candidate. So how do you intend to keep the focus of the party in this flag off and going forward? What strategies do you think the party will employ to maintain that focus?
Having commenced the process of challenging the decision, let us not forget also that our party and its candidate remain on the ballot, because this is just a court of first instance. We'll continue to explain to our followers, our membership, and the majority of the good people of Bayelsa State that we believe will turn out for the elections and vote for us, that look, this is one devilish, mischievous strategy that will be nipped in the bud. And so the beat must go on. The flag off will go on. We've commenced our campaigns. A day before, on Monday, we were in my local government, incidentally, Sabama local government area. It's the turn of a Kirimo. We'll do this until the official flag off, and we'll continue to campaign. Is
it legally advisable for Timipre Sylva to parade himself as the governorship candidate of the APC, going for campaign flag offs and all that at this time?
Even when you have a death sentence from a court of first instance, your life is preserved once you file an appeal and you obtain the appropriate order of stay of execution. So that's just the setting here. This is a first pronouncement. It still needs to be affirmed and confirmed by two other layers of courts that are higher than this one. And so, since we have not come to the end point, you will presume in favor of what is positive. You presume in favor of what you believe will be the ultimate scenario. And then you continue the campaign. If we take the hints that you've given about being cautious with campaigns because of a pronouncement, that would be giving credence to the strategy of the opposition.
But wouldn't that be a
We know
disobedience
that.
of a judicial pronouncement, bearing in mind that you've not
No,
applied for, you've not yet applied for a stay
won't-
of execution?
It won't be. Once you file, remember it's a declaratory judgment. And
Okay.
so, how you go about it is different from when there's an injunctive order.
Okay.
Stop parading yourself.
All right.
All that. So
we have to go, but just a quick question. Timipre Sylva was governor of Bayelsa State. He left before his term expired, and Goodluck Jonathan stepped in. Goodluck Jonathan was governorship candidate. He left before the elections, and Timipre Sylva stepped in. In the event that this appeal is unsuccessful, does the APC in Bayelsa State have an alternative candidate in mind for the Bayelsa State governorship election?
Well, a true optimist will not be thinking of a negative alternative when you are so sure of what you are pursuing. And I think that's the thinking I want to flow with. It might sound a little bit uncomfortable, but we are so optimistic that we will not want to think of a plan B that derails from the real essence of the drive that we are in now. So I don't want to give a second thought about a plan B, because it is absolutely unnecessary, given the faith that we have and the sense of optimism we have in all of this.
Thank you very much. Stanley Damabide, Director Legal Clearance of the Bayelsa APC Governorship Campaign Council. We'll be watching, keeping eyes on that to see what comes out of your appeal. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.